I wanted to tell my story of abduction in Krakow, Poland. This happened in 2012, and there are not many people I've told this story to. For my birthday in 2012, me and my ex-husband visited Krakow for a short break. My main interest was to visit Auschwitz and the Jewish quarter of the city and Schindler's factory, which is now a museum. We arrived just prior to the Christmas market's opening. I remember being disappointed that we wouldn't be able to experience this. We stayed in a very nice hotel. I won't divulge the name, but it was approximately 15 minutes walking distance from the main square and cloth market. Had a beautiful balcony over the river and was very nice with lovely, hospitable staff. I couldn't recommend this hotel highly enough. We flew in on a cheap budget flight around mid-afternoon and showered, changed and got ready to explore. The weather was cold and dreary with some light drizzle, but more than okay to walk along the river into Krakow, the main city. Krakow is an exceptionally beautiful city. I loved it. We had a good look at the cloth market, ate a meal of matzo balls and stew in the main square under blankets and heated lights, watched the famous clock tower, and even managed to visit a lovely shopping center with excellent shops, where I purchased a lovely cashmere coat from Zara and an equally lovely hat and scarf, important for later. Given it's our first night, we had a few drinks, which turned into a few more. We ended our evening in a lovely bar beneath the city. Most bars appear to be underground in the catacombs. I was overjoyed. As a smoker, we usually are social lepers, but we could still smoke cigarettes in this bar. Around 1 a.m., we were tired and decided to go home to our comfy hotel. We made our way up the stairs from the bar to street level, and the taxi ramp was right outside. We jumped in a taxi and let the driver know our hotel location. Unfortunately, the driver would only accept cash, so he explained we would need a cash point at some time along the 5-minute journey to the hotel. At this point, I need to explain I had no mobile phone with me. I was back at our hotel. In those days, roaming had to be paid for, so we decided we would only take my ex-husband's phone. It was 2012, so I think I only had an old iPhone 3S, and it was due for renewal. The 5-minute journey was uneventful, and we arrived opposite our hotel, which was a type of dual carriageway, with a petrol station with cash points opposite the hotel entrance. My ex-husband signaled to the driver to pull in to use the cash point and got out of the taxi. As my ex-husband was at the cash point, this is where my nightmare began. As soon as dropping him off and seeing he was withdrawing money at the cash point, the driver locked all the doors and sped off. I was in the back seat with several shopping bags and had no idea what was going on. The taxi driver took the main dual carriageway out of the city and kept on speeding. Initially, I thought he was looking for a place to turn around to pick up my ex-husband. This wasn't the case. The taxi driver continued to speed until we were well out of the city limits. He spoke no English. I asked him if he wanted money. I showed him my empty bags and shopping bags and asked him what was going on. At this point, I was scared but assumed there was a misunderstanding. Once the taxi driver continued past the Krakow outskirts, I was terrified. The outskirts of Krakow are rural. No street lights, just black, snow, and ice. The taxi driver shouted and shouted at me, but I couldn't understand a word. Eventually, he pushed me physically and forcefully with my head into the back seat and told me, I can only assume, to shut the fuck up. He was talking on his phone to a man. The journey carried on for another 20 minutes until we came to what looked like an industrial estate. No houses, some streetlights, but the whole area was just warehouses and factories and fields. The taxi driver was still on his phone, sounding angry, then abruptly turned it off and stopped the car. By this point, I was petrified. I can honestly say I have never been so scared in my life. I was praying and begging that my life wouldn't end here, at 34, the mother of 5-year-old twins, and ending up dead in a lockup on an industrial estate. For about 30 seconds, it was quiet, apart from my sobbing and begging. Then, the taxi driver got out, came around to the back car door, grabbed me, and threw me to the side of the road. He then grabbed my shopping bag and hurled it at me, got into the taxi, and drove off. I gathered myself up. It was probably -8, late November, and snowing heavily, and looked for some kind of doorway, hedge, or any kind of shelter. Bearing in mind, I was left on the outside of an industrial estate. I walked some meters away and found a gap in a hedge and sat down, pulled my coat and bags around me, and cried my heart out. I have no idea how long I was there. Maybe an hour, maybe 2, but the sky started to lighten and a few cars and vans came past me. I tried to flag some down, but it was no good. I sat back down. I was frozen. I can honestly say, I think I was dying, and I had no more energy left. All I know from then to my rescue is thanks to some lovely Polish people. Apparently, at around 5 a.m., I was sprawled across the road's hard shoulder, and a brother and sister going to the market with their cattle stopped and picked me up, dragged me into their truck, and put a big, cow poo stained jacket around me. I couldn't speak apparently. I was just trying to talk to my children, and they found out my hotel location from a napkin in my bag. These wonderful people drove me 20 miles back to Krakow, to my hotel, where my ex-husband, police, hotel owner, manager, and Polish equivalent of the CID were all there in the process of setting up a command center. They dropped me off, still wearing the poo-stained jacket, were questioned, and went back on their way to the market. I never even got their names. I was swabbed, photographed, fingerprinted, etc., and got a stiff brandy from the bar. The following day, we visited Auschwitz-Birkenau, the main reason for the Krakow trip. That evening, we were taken by the police to the taxi rank, where we got the taxi from, to try and identify the driver. But he wasn't there. It was left with the Polish police. But dear God, I must have had someone looking after me that night.